Hey everyone, and welcome to episode number 55 of the Australian Rock Show. My name is Dennis Gray from the Rockin' and Rollin' Gray Brothers, and today is Friday, the 4th of March 2016, when this show is being recorded. In an often stale and predictable rock scene, Gwyn Ashton, armed with his authentic brand of blues rock, long ago restored my faith in rock and roll. With a career spanning 3 decades, Gwyn Ashton has appeared at festivals in Brazil, Mexico and also here in Australia. In 2015, he was inducted into the South Australian Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He has released 6 albums and 1 EP, came 3rd place behind Jeff Beck and Gary Moore in a French guitar magazine poll, had 2 albums simultaneously in the Amazon Top 100, and records and tours with some of the world's leading rock musicians. Robert Plant said, "He's the king of feel and tone." The very well-respected keyboardist Don Airey, who of course has done time in Deep Purple, Whitesnake, Rainbow, Ozzy and Michael Schenker, among others, called it right when he stated Gwyn is one of the great unsung heroes. Let that sink in for a moment. One of the great unsung heroes. The great Gwyn Ashton is currently back home doing a bunch of shows, and we recently got a hold of him on the phone for a chat. It's an interview recorded on the 25th of February, by the way, which we will hear in a moment. But before we do, let's get warmed up with a tune. From his superb 2012 album Radiogram, here is Gwyn Ashton with Little Girl. Gwyn, welcome to the Australian Rock Show.
Great, yeah, thanks. It's great to be here.
Mate, you had not played Australia for quite some time, and we are very fortunate to have you back home so soon after touring early last year. You've just done a bunch of dates around South Australia and Tasmania. What's the response been like so far for those shows?
It's been really good. It's great. It's always great to come home, you know. And I was over there last year and I pulled a bunch of people out there, made some new friends, and they all came back and brought people with them and all that sort of stuff, you know. So it's been going well on a small scale. You know, it's not huge. I'm trying to get it huger. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Got to keep making records and getting somebody.
Good music. Good music always finds its audience, mate. I
really
believe
exactly.
that. And were they your first Tasmanian shows? Have you done gigs down there in the 80s?
Yeah, I did one a long time ago back in the early 90s, but last year was my first run through Tasmania, and this year was the second one.
Nice. Well, I'd introed this chat by playing Little Girl from the Radiogram album. Great chorus, great guitar tone. How did that song come about?
I wrote that, I'm trying to remember where I wrote that one. I think I might have written it in Poland in a hotel room. But, I mean, these songs are sort of, when I write stuff, I don't really know always where the inspiration comes from. It just sort of, I hear a phrase or whatever and just continue it from there, you know.
So, I guess this is hard for you to answer, but fan-wise, do you think Radiogram was your best received album or Prohibition?
Prohibition, maybe. Yeah. I had the main difference between those is I had a record label promoting Prohibition, and this time I released Radiogram myself. We didn't have the budget, you know, for promotion or whatever.
It's a harder slog, isn't
it? But it's done okay. There's always, you know, room for improvement, of course.
What about 2016? Are you working on new material?
Yeah, I've recorded an acoustic album, which is a bit of an intermediate thing because it's a collaboration with a friend of mine in Adelaide, Chris. He's a great guitar player. That's an intermediate thing. It's not a full-on album like I want to record, but it's got some great sounds on it. You know, it's touching a few sort of feels that I've wanted to get into. It's sort of blending the blues with some sort of Eastern stuff, Indian kind of things, and some Arabic scales and whatever, you know. And I'm playing a little bit more lap slide on it that I've only been playing for the last couple of years. So, but
when do you think that will be out?
Well, hopefully it was supposed to be out now, but the record company I was the label wanted an electric album, so they kind of passed on this. So I'm sort of shopping it around at the moment. I'll put it out myself if I have to, because it is a good album. The contributions that I made to it, the songs are quite strong. So it's just another feather in the cap, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And while I've got you here, I've got to tell you that from a personal side of things, I fell in love with Prohibition, a release which was voted Album of the Year by the British Guitar and Bass magazine. And may I also reiterate that the song on that record, which I played a few shows back, The Road Is My Religion, is, in my opinion, one of the most important songs ever released by an Australian artist.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. The way you paint the picture of life on the road via those song lyrics is brilliant. And so, congratulations. And when I first heard it, it reminded me of why I got, so heavily into rock and roll in the first place. It was one of those songs.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. I appreciate that.
I gather that was penned on the road?
I can't remember. I really can't remember even writing it, even though I know I did. I didn't nick it.
Yeah.
Some songs I remember specifically writing, and other ones I sort of, I know I wrote them sometime, but it's just one of those things, because I spend so much time on the road and record. Some songs come really quickly. I've got another one that I'm working on that I can't finish. I'm staying at a friend's place in Melbourne, and he's a great lyricist and writes really good stuff too. So we're going to work on some things while I'm here.
Well, I've gone on record as calling you a rock and roll road warrior in every sense of the word, because besides the passion for the music, I guess, what is it which keeps your fire burning? I
think because I never had anything to fall back on, so I just know that I have to do something with it, otherwise I'll starve. but I really enjoy going. I love going to new places. I love returning to the places I've been before, and just making new friends everywhere. It's great. The adventure, I guess, keeps me going as well, especially across Central Europe into Eastern Europe, and and the characters that you meet. Even if you don't speak the language, they're crazy.
Well, actually, I've got a tough question for you, mate. Besides, I guess there are a couple of places in Europe where you have your strongest following. Where do you think they would be?
It used to be France, but France is a bit of a funny place now. Everybody's sort of struggling over there. I guess I've been really hammering the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and I'm just making inroads into the former Yugoslavia district, Montenegro, Slovenia, Bosnia, Croatia, and somewhere else that would be really upset that I've forgotten the name of their country, but all those places down there anyway. And I went over there a couple of times last year and once the year before that. That's opening up a little bit for me. The whole thing about Europe is music is art over there. It's part of the culture, and they study a lot what they're into. And in an Anglo-Saxon country, most people say, "Oh, I'm into a bit of everything" or whatever. But over there, they can tell you specifically what they're into. Mike Stern's name comes up quite frequently when you're having conversations with 18-year-old kids. And,
isn't that great, though?
Yeah. And in England, and a lot of America, too. I find that a lot of American young people have got a better understanding of the origins of British rock than a lot of the English do. So, and you hear them, they complain about their radio being pretty bad, but they have album shows still. They'll play the whole white album and they'll discuss each song. And they'll play side 3, without a break.
Yeah, it's a shame a lot of the youngsters here have gone off track and are into other genres or if they got off their phones for a while and discovered music like we did, I think the world would be a better place. But
it's a different thing now, isn't it? It's a different focus.
Yeah. What about
in the old days, there wasn't much else. It was either sport or music, but now there's a lot of other things, distractions, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
What about the experience? What's the experience like to play shows in a country like Russia?
It can be a bit funny. It's great. They love it, and there's some great blues players over in Moscow, especially. But I've been to, because I haven't been all around the place. I've only been to a couple of places in Russia. I'm going back in April after my last gig here. It was funny. I went to this electronic sort of superstore thing, and it's like this 3-story building, and everything's pirated. iPhones and whatever. And some guy actually recognised me in the CD booth, and he pulled out this copy of Radiogram, which was in a plastic case. Obviously, I've only ever pressed those in digipacks.
Okay.
With an 8-page booklet. So it's obviously a pirate recording, and I'm thinking,
sure.
And he wanted me to sign it, and I said, "Oh, where'd you get this from?" Because he didn't know I'm also the record label. And he said, "Oh, this is the Russian pressing, and it's authorised by the British record label, and they're printed in St. Petersburg." And I just went, "Oh, great!" So I just signed it, smiled, and gave it back to him. But I thought, yeah, right, I've never authorised that. And my agent over there, he was saying, "Well, don't walk down that street and don't go over there, you could get in trouble." So. Yeah.
I want to rack your brain just a little bit about
Sure.
growing up in Adelaide. I want to ask what local bands you were seeing growing up in Adelaide.
Okay, well, the first band I got taken to see was Smokestack Lightning, which was an Adelaide, Chicago blues band. And I'd never heard blues before, and my friend Neil Edgley took me to that out of my first band that I was in, the second band. And that just changed my life, seeing... And they were great, up in the Adelaide Hills, Allgate Pump House Hotel. It was fantastic. This was about 1978 or something.
Okay.
I got into it a bit late. And the next day I went out and bought a bunch of vinyl, the Blues Breakers album with Clapton and all that. Fleetwood Mac and whatnot. And I guess they were the first band I went to see. Then there were some local bands. I can't remember who they were now. But Australia's always had some dynamite bands. It was very competitive over here, where the English bands sort of, they're not as scary as the Aussie ones. If you know what I mean.
It was a tough breeding ground, absolutely, back then.
Yeah, which is
by
good.
The time, and much the same for yourself. By the time you got to the UK, you were battle hardened. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there is something to say about working your ass off, for
Sure.
years doing stuff that no person in their right mind would ever do. You know what I mean? And you see a lot of young bands in England now, and they got their dads looking after them and whatnot. And it's like, well, okay, I'd really like to see you tough it out, but it's not going to happen. So. And the music reflects that as well. And I bring it up on various occasions, and I get screamed at for not supporting young bands and all this sort of stuff. That's rubbish. You've got to encourage kids, but you also got to kick them out and tell them to go and forge a life and get their own music together. That's what we had to do. And I think the music, it's great. There's a lot of great artists around now, and I haven't been in Australia long enough now to see the new guys here, but what I have seen, it's been, wow, really good stuff. But
now, what about one of your early international acts was Chuck Berry? Now, I was going to ask you, so we're talking the Apollo Stadium in Adelaide in 75, I think. I was going to ask you if the Keystone Angels were backing Chuck on that night, because I know they did some of the dates in Sydney, or one of the dates in Sydney. But
I had no idea. I was like 16. I wasn't even, I was kind of playing, but I wasn't in a band or anything. And it was the first time my mum let me borrow the car. But it was a great gig. Yeah.
Well, after scouring online, I discovered that his backing band at the Apollo was comprised of guys like Bill O'Grady on guitar, John Van Zyl on drums, and Russ Johnson on lead guitar. I don't know if those names mean anything to you. But,
yeah. Wow, I didn't know that.
Okay. So was that a life-changing concert for you, and why do you think so?
Yeah, well, I was into a lot of 50s rock and roll back in the mid-70s when I first started getting into it. So it was to go and see him was great, and you know, it was only 20 years after he'd sort of really hit. It might be a bit different now, but he was you know, duck walks and splits and whatever. And he was fantastic. I don't know if I mean, being 16 and that's the first time you see something. That was the first concert I went to. You know, so I don't know if I was just impressionable or whatever. But
I know
for me that was a highlight of my life, seeing that.
And I know that you've done time both with Swanee in '85 and Stevie Wright in '86.
Oh yeah.
And I need to check gig dates, but it's probable I saw you with Stevie around about that time. I've got to ask you, which Stevie or Easy Beats tunes were your favourites to play, and do any memorable gigs with him stand out?
I always enjoyed doing the Evie and guitar bands. I liked all the stuff. There are a couple of things there I'd never heard of before, but they were kind of the rock and roll stuff. It's definitely, you know, the harder hitting stuff. Hard Road, I enjoyed playing that with him. But I wasn't in the band for very long. That band kind of split up after a while.
Okay.
And the band that made the DVD was the band after the one we had. So,
okay.
So I probably don't even really exist in the eyes of time. You know.
Let me make you think a bit more, mate. After so many years on the Australian circuit back in the 70s and 80s, was there one band you came across who you were convinced would make it but didn't?
Wow, that's a hard one. You know, growing up in that early time in Adelaide, I guess, and in the area that I was in, I was only really... I didn't get a lot of opportunity to see a lot of people immediately. So when I did, it was just the guys out there that had made it.
Mate, I read online that one of your most memorable gigs was supporting Status Quo on a 15-run date.
Oh, yeah. That was
15 shows at Wembley Arena. Was it the size and atmosphere of that venue which makes that time period stand out, or what was it about those shows which are so special?
I think there's a relationship I developed with Francis and Rick towards the end of the tour. They both gave me their phone numbers, and Rick asked me for some slide guitar lessons, which is kind of cool. And but Francis told me that they'd lost their main songwriter, and he liked my songs, and would I consider writing some stuff with him. And at that time, I was going through a really bad stage with the band, and I had no inspiration for actually writing, which is a bit of a... Yeah, that was a bit of a shame.
Bad timing.
Yeah, but I give him a buzz now and then, and I went around his house once, and he had this huge Olympic-sized pool. And he said, "This is why we have to keep touring. So we're going to afford to keep this." So anyway, but it was great. Playing all those arenas was really good. Though I get a better guitar sound in small gigs. There's walls on the ceiling the guitar sound to bounce off, you know. So
well, actually,
a lot of people are hooked on those big gigs, you know. That doesn't really bother me that much. But I mean, if I had the opportunity to do it again, I'd jump at it. But,
that was at Wembley Arena, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, we did the NEC in Birmingham, and we did all the arenas around Britain. And
I
they
saw
had the experience to have done that. Definitely.
You mentioned the sound. I saw the Kinks and the Stranglers there more than 20-something years ago now, and I thought the sound was terrible at that venue.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to.
You're relying on the PA system.
Mate, you have some amazing stories, enough to fill a book, I reckon. And one story I only learnt recently was that you very nearly replaced Rick Vito in Fleetwood Mac back in 1991. Can I get you to tell our listeners how that came about?
Well, yeah, it wasn't ever really officially announced, but Billy Thorpe brought Mick Fleetwood into my gig one night in Adelaide, and we just finished the set, and Thorpe came up and said, "Mick wants to play with you. Do you mind? Is it okay if he sits in?" And I said, yeah, I'd love it. Bring him up. So we played for an hour or so, and then at 5 o'clock in the morning, it was, time to go. They invited me to the gig the next night, and I went there, and they said, I'll put your hand on the guest list. And I said, okay, great. So I got there, and the crew, one of the guys from the crew said, oh, you must be the guy that Mick was talking about all the way here, for the gig. And that made me feel pretty good. And their sound engineer for the studio Malibu, he produced Tango in the Night, that album. He said, look, there's a pretty big gig coming up. I don't want to say who it is, but Mick's obviously a part of it, and they're looking for another guitar player. Do you have a passport? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, let's stay in contact because he likes playing with you. And I thought, wow, that was a bit nice. And I didn't really think much of it. But then I found out that Rick had left, and that's when Lindsay and Stevie went back to the band to do that big comeback thing. And I don't think they knew at the time that was going to happen, but they did me out of the gig, the buggers. But, it's rock and roll, eh?
Well, it's a nice good story.
To be considered. Yeah.
After I read that, I remember I ran into Billy Thorpe at the SB in St Kilda around that time at a Peter Wells gig. I might mention to our listeners that the album which Thorpe and Mick Fleetwood cut back then, called Shakin' the Cage, is incredible, featuring the amazing vocals of Becca Bramlett, which I
didn't realise that until a few weeks ago.
Oh, really? That she was in the lineup?
Yeah, because I just remember she got up and sang with us. I thought, she's pretty good. Well, somebody said she was Richie Sambora's girlfriend or something, and I went, that's right. Nice. And then I was YouTubing, as you do, and I came across this video in Melbourne. Must have been the show that you went to, and it announced the whole band, and I thought, bloody hell, I didn't know that.
I will. I'm going to list your upcoming gigs after this interview, but I do note that you are sharing the bill with Graham Bonnet at the Gov in your hometown of Adelaide on 7th of April. That promises to be one great night of blues and rock. Yeah,
that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm friends with Graham and FME, his bass player, girlfriend, and Conrado, the guitar player. In fact, we jammed together a few weeks ago in Los Angeles.
Mate, what advice would you give while we finish up to any young aspiring guitarist out there?
Give up. Get a real job. No, just be really open-minded, because I find where I live, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but I find that in certain parts of where I'm from, the new generation of sort of new breed of muso, kind of the young guys sort of go and do their own gig, then they just bugger off and take all their mates with them, and the next band doesn't get the play to their crowd, and so there's got to be some camaraderie between people. I mean, that naturally happens, I guess, over here, because I've seen a lot of really good stuff here too, with people interacting a lot more than they do in other places. Listen to all forms of music and don't write anything off. Listen to a bit of jazz and rock and punk and country, whatever, anything, blues.
Great
just everything. Just be open-minded and go and watch as many things. If you play guitar, go and watch guitar players. Check them out.
Yeah,
and listen to horn players. Listening to horn players is really good advice too, because the horn player never has to take breaths between phrases and in soloing and whatnot, and that's what a good guitar player should. You should be able to hear the breath between the phrase. That's important. You can't just run out a whole bunch of notes and just expect it to be musical.
Mate, I can't let you go without playing an Australian song of your choice. It can be one of yours or something special to you. What would you like to hear and why?
Gypsy Queen Country Radio. There you go, a bit of Greg Quill. That was kind of 1972. I really liked that song when it came out. I was 13 years old or something.
Mate, it's been lovely catching up. Good luck with the rest of the tour, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
For Gwyn Ashton, that was country radio from 1972 with the wonderful Gypsy Queen. I hope everyone enjoyed that chat with Gwyn, and as you may have gathered, I rate the guy very highly and I think he deserves way more recognition. Gwyn is several shows into his current Australian tour, yet you can catch him on one of his remaining dates, so be sure to keep your evening free and get on by and hear his music play. Tonight, the 4th of March, Gwyn is on at the Golden Vine in Bendigo. 5th of March, Bar 12 in Frankston, Victoria. 6th of March, Prince of Wales in St Kilda. 11th of March, Pistol Pete's in Geelong. 12th of March, Gwyn is on the bill at the Motor City Music Festival in Geelong. 13th at the Western Port Hotel in San Remo. 16th at the Whole Lotta Love Bar in East Brunswick. Friday the 18th, Gwyn Ashton returns to Canberra playing the Harmony German Club. The next night, Saturday the 19th, see him at the Dromedary Hotel in Tilba. Sunday the 20th of March at the Taraji Beach Hotel in Wollongong, before hightailing it to Newcastle, where he plays the Stag and Hunter in Mayfield on the 24th, to be exact. On the 7th of April, Gwyn was slated to play at the Gov in Adelaide with Graham Bonnet, but it would appear that the entire Graham Bonnet tour has been cancelled. All of these dates and so much more can be found by visiting gwynashton.com. Folks, it is time to get out of here. AustralianRockShow@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at AusRockShow, AUS Rock Show. We can be found on Facebook where we post new show links. Please share the shows to your timelines, which helps to spread the word about our show. Be sure to visit our website at AustralianRockShow.com. All the past episodes are there free for you to download and enjoy. You can hear the Australian Rock Show, AusRock's loudest and proudest rock and roll podcast via iTunes, Stitcher and also TuneIn. Visit our website, have a look around, buy a t-shirt and help support us. Let's close out with a song which, as I have stated previously, is one which I consider to be one of the most important songs ever released by an Australian artist, and one which always puts me in a good mood. It heals your heart, it frees your mind, it sanctifies your soul, and friends, that is good enough for me. Lifted from his 2006 album Prohibition, here is Gwyn Ashton with The Road Is My Religion. This is Dennis, out.